The Dershow.
The most popular issue today among conspiracy theorists, the Jeffrey Epstein case. You know, I was involved in the case. I was his lawyer. I was the one who helped, along with 5 or 6 other lawyers, very prominent lawyers at big law firms. We arranged this so-called sweetheart deal. It wasn't a sweetheart deal at all. Jeffrey Epstein hated it, fired me, didn't pay me my fee, didn't want to have anything further to do with me because he had to serve, supposed to serve 1.5 years in prison, closer to a year, and he had to register as a sex offender. So he didn't like that. But nonetheless, I was his lawyer. You know also that I was, as I said from the very beginning, falsely accused. And then the woman who accused me came forward and acknowledged that she may have misidentified me and dropped all the lawsuits, and everything was resolved. I can't say anything beyond that because there's an arrangement where I said I wouldn't say anything beyond that. And I'm not going to say anything beyond. This is not about me. This is not about the accusation. I just have to, for obviously fairness, indicate that I'm not a neutral observer of this thing. But I know, all the facts. I know more facts than probably anyone else. I've seen the files. I've seen the documents. I have a file myself, this high, including, probably 1 million pages of documents. Most of it I don't even have anymore. Sent away with where my files go, to file heaven or file hell. I don't know. In Epstein's case, probably file hell. But I've seen everything, and it's a nothing burger. It's a nothing burger. Let's start about the client list. Now, when you say there's a client list, it makes it sound like it's a list drafted or written by Jeffrey Epstein saying, here are the men, in one case a woman, here are the men who I lent out people, females to have sex. There's no such list. It doesn't exist. It never existed. What there is an FBI report, or reports, maybe more, from alleged victims, indicating the men that they claim they had sex with. Okay, that list is redacted. The names have been whited out or blacked out. I know who they are because I was involved in the case. So I know who these whited out or blacked out names are. I can tell you a lot of things I can't tell you because I can't tell you things that are bound, that are subject to court sealing. I can tell you there's nobody on that list that is currently in any office or in any position of current prominence. But I know who the people are on the list. Some of their names have already been made public. Some of their names have presumably, I'm not sure, not been made public. I know of at least one case where there is a name that was redacted by the judge. The judge wouldn't allow it to be revealed. And this is a person who's accused of having sex with one of the people through Jeffrey Epstein. And I also know of material that has been redacted by judges, more than one judge, that contain negative material about accusers, about people who accused other people. I'm not going to get into that, but that's a fact. And so there is material that's been redacted, but it hasn't been redacted by the Justice Department. The current Justice Department over Pam Bondi had nothing to do with it. They don't even know the names. I know better than they do because they don't know the names because they just got involved in the case. I've been involved in the case for years, since it started in 2005 or something like that. So it's 20 years. But they didn't do the redaction. As far as I know, they've published everything they have, but they can't violate court orders any more than I can. So they can't give you those names that have been redacted. I'd love to, but I can't. As I've said from the very beginning, I want every piece of information out there, every accusation, every accuser, everything about the accusers, everything. I want everything out there. And the media can probably do that if they went to court and sought in the name of the First Amendment, in the name of freedom of speech, to have unredacted these names and the information. There's a good chance they would get it. But if they don't, at least we'll know who the responsibility is. It's with the judges. It's not with Pam Bondi or the Trump administration or the current FBI. Yes, it was the previous FBI that initially, either that or a judge, we're not sure who, whited or blacked out the names. I'm not sure who, but I've actually held in my hand the document, and I was able to, by extrapolating from other things that were written by other people and other testimony, I was able to figure out who all the names were. I was very interested in doing that because I was not included. I was not in the any lists of people. So I was very anxious to get all this out. I had a selfish reason for doing it. But in any event, that's not the point. The point is that that is not something the Justice Department did or really had any control over. So there's that. Then there's the accusation that videotapes have been withheld. Well, I know for a fact there are videotapes, but they're not what you think they are. What happened is Jeffrey Epstein discovered that money had been robbed from his living room desk drawer, along with a licensed firearm. And so he reported it to the Palm Beach police. This is way before he was ever accused of anything. He was on good terms with the Palm Beach police. He reported it to the Palm Beach police. He made contributions to the Palm Beach police. He made contributions to police departments all over. You can speculate why he did, but he did. And so the Palm Beach police came to his house and they installed a video camera underneath the desk or somewhere. And there were videotapes surveilling whether or not this guy or woman, we don't know who it was, who stole his money. I think they finally found out who it was. It was a man. I think he was fired, but who stole his money and his gun. So there was that videotape. Were there videotapes of any of the bedrooms in his house in Palm Beach? There were about 5 bedrooms. Each was a suite, a bedroom and a bathroom. I stayed in that suite. My wife stayed in that suite. My grandchildren, my children, we all stayed in some of those suites. When he was not there, he lent us the house for a period of time when my granddaughter had a soccer match. So I know the layout of the house pretty well. I hope there were video cameras, but I am not aware of any. So I think the idea of video cameras having recorded information so that he could blackmail people, there's just no evidence to support that. And I don't believe it's true. Then there's the Tucker Carlson allegation, which is the most absurd of all. He worked for the Mossad. He worked for the Jews. He worked for Israel. And don't call me an anti-Semite just because I say he worked for Israel. No, you're just wrong. You're just dead wrong. He didn't work for Israel. Let me tell you how I know. I was his lawyer along with 4 or 5 other lawyers. If he had worked for any intelligence agency, the Mossad, the Shin Bet, the CIA, anything, any intelligence agency, the first person he would tell would be me and the other lawyers and say, hey, get me a better deal. I don't like this deal. I'm going to jail for 1.5 years. I have to register as a sex offender. I worked as an intelligence source, so get me a better deal. He didn't tell us that. We asked him everything. We asked him, what information is there conceivably that could help you? We asked him whether people he could testify against. That's what lawyers do. You debrief your client. And if there was any conceivable possibility that he worked for any intelligence agency, we would be the first people who know it.